All right, welcome everybody. Just as always, I'm gonna wait a few seconds here to see, to just to wait on people joining. I am looking at the attendees list, and we're just gonna wait a few more seconds as we see people coming in to make sure that we don't miss out on recording the full session. All right. Just more attendees are joining. And maybe with that, we can get started. Welcome, everybody. Saundra, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm actually very happy to be here today with you.
Thank you. Thanks, Saundra. So look, it really is important for us, as we discussed, as far as these weekly updates, to make sure that our stakeholders collectively, they do understand where we are, what we're trying to address, and most importantly, why we're doing this. And while you and I speak, I don't know, twice a day, 3, 4 times, sometimes a day, obviously especially people on the outside don't see those dynamics. And it's really important for us to be, to really communicate what's going on, so they understand that this is not just a process of documentation and M&A. This is a lot more of a partnership that we're trying to get done, and we're trying to get it done for a good reason. So with that said, I know everybody knows you, Saundra, but maybe just for whoever who doesn't, maybe you can do a quick intro, and we'll take it there.
Great. Thank you, Amro. So I'm Saundra Pelletier. I am the CEO of Evofem Biosciences, and our alignment with Aditxt really is critical because Aditxt has identified the need to partner to really help rise women's health. And women are half the population. And our company has 2 FDA-approved products that are innovative and absolutely unique. And the first is Phexxi. As you see, I'm wearing my Phexxi shirt. It is the first and the only FDA-approved birth control that women use on demand, only when they need it, never when they don't. I say that statement specifically because right now, when women are given hormonal birth control, synthetic birth control, they have to take a product every single day of every week, of every month for years. And women don't have sex every day. So if women are having side effects, which many women do, having something they use only when they need it is game-changing for the quality of life of women. So that's Phexxi. Also, with the help of Aditxt, we were able to acquire our second FDA-approved product called Solisec. Solisec treats bacterial vaginosis and trichomoniasis, pervasive infections. It is the same call point. Our reps call on OBGYNs to talk about Phexxi and Solisec, but here's what makes Solisec better. Before Solisec, or without Solisec, women were asked to take a product twice a day for 7 to 14 days. Solisec is a silver bullet. It's one and done. You go in and you have discharge and odor and vaginal pain, and you're given 1 sachet. You mix it in applesauce, pudding, or yogurt, and you take it 1 time, you're done. The dosing regimen is superior. So we have 2 very unique, wonderful products. And the partnership with Aditxt has allowed us to keep offering solutions for women, and which offers solutions for investors. So that was a long answer, Amro. I'm sorry, but yeah.
I mean, I'm a big fan, Saundra. You can articulate women's health and Evofem better than anyone. So look, and it is mutual. It really, this has been a two-way street, two-way partnership. And look, while we are a young company, Aditxt, right? We are a young company, and we all understand, the nature of being an early stage, but this is something where we believe in as far as women's health. Starting with Adimmune, we have the autoimmune program, which we'll talk about at the end of the program, and as far as our plan for an update. We have Persanta with early diagnostics, starting with cancer and endometriosis, speaking of women's health. And we are working on establishing women's health through the acquisition and the transaction we currently have. And with that said, look, we continue, myself, Saundra, our team, we continue to push forward to, targeting to close the acquisition by September. And that is still our commitment. That has not changed. knowing that we do have certain conditions we have to address, right? We do. And that's why it has taken a long time, and we must address these conditions. But the fact that we're still here and we're still pushing forward, obviously we both believe in the partnership and what it can do beyond September and beyond the acquisition. So before I go further, please just remember that we really encourage questions, Q&A. You have at the bottom of the screen a way to ask questions, and whether it's for me or Saundra, please go ahead and ask questions as we go. You don't have to wait until the end of the session. You can ask as we do this live. So that's a little bit of the background on what we've been working on. So Saundra, what was your women's health, and we chatted a little bit before as far as the direction, and you wanted to make sure that Evofem is not a single product company for obvious reasons. Number one, there are all types of needs when it comes to women's health. It's not just it's not just what Evofem provides. You mentioned SoloSec, and we talked about monitoring, prevention, and treatment. So with Fixie, it addresses at least it really is a product that fits in prevention. With SoloSec, it fits in treatment. And we discussed endometriosis, and I see Chris on the line here from Persanta. And not to put you on the spot, why don't you talk a little bit about endometriosis, and if it becomes a service as part of Evofem, what would that do for Evofem as a company providing a monitoring and a diagnostic service, and the market in general?
Yeah. So the one thing that I want everybody, all the partners, constituents, investors to hear is that even though Evofem is also small, we really have been categorized by doctors, by nurses, by nurse practitioners and midwives as the company that does the tough things, right? Bringing some of these products to market or resurrecting a product like SoloSec. So the idea that we are going to have something for endometriosis, you have to remember that infertility is pervasive. Young women are paralyzed with fear about IVF, not just about the financial aspect of it, but the emotional aspect of it. And endometriosis is one of the main causes of infertility. So if we have a way for detection, it is going to be so valuable. One, for the credibility of our offerings. Two, for the mission that all of our organizations want to deliver on. And the idea that we want to be innovative, right? You don't want to wait until it's too late, right? You want to be able to, you solve problems for women when detection is early. So endometriosis is something that is, when you do market research with women, what you see is the pain that they have, the fear that they have, the lack of information and education, and offices really want help and solutions. So one, endometriosis is huge. The other great thing, though, is that this exact same technology will be able to be developed over time for ovarian cancer. Ovarian cancer is the silent killer of women, period. And everyone that I talk to, the idea that we are continuing to innovate, and that, to your point, right, we will have something for all of these stages of clinical solutions for women. The partnership with Persanta is just going to make our offering more robust, but not just because we want another product. The one thing that I think, Amro, you and I agree upon is that just having anything is not enough. We want to be differentiated as a company that has value, that continues to have credibility by solutions that are better, period. So that's what this Persanta technology has. So, and we've done a lot of research, by the way. I've been in women's health my whole life. I'm really 250 years old. I just live in California, so I get a lot of facials. But I'm telling you this, that it is we're very excited. The other point is we already have the footprint, right? That's the one thing that we love about you and Chris at Persanta, is that we built the footprint, which, by the way, is not inexpensive, okay? And we got a lot of judgment from investors. Why don't you outsource? Why don't you use a contract sales force? Well, I can tell you that you need to inspect what you expect. Contract sales forces are the B team. They're not the A team. We needed the A team to deliver to really deliver value for women and investors. That's why we invested in it. I will never regret that decision. But yes, more products is better. And the final thing I want to say is when you have a sales team that has launched Phexxi almost 3 years ago, then we had Solisec, right, this year. By the time we get ready for endometriosis, the sales force is going to be ready for new conversations. So we're very excited about this because it makes so much sense. So I'm
Yeah,
feeling for both.
and that is an important point because look, I mean, as you know, I mean, we're capital is key, obviously, for all of us. But reality is, we always talk as far as with Aditxt, it really isn't about capital. I mean, we all figure out how to make sure we try to get the fuel, and our team knows it's a challenge, and I'm sure your team knows it is a challenge. But ultimately, the key to building a business is having these synergies like the one you just talked about with Persanta. And it goes both ways. For Persanta, Evofem is a great partner, great channel. You understand women's health, you have the existing relationships, you have the foundation, you have the platform. So with that said, look, our a majority of our work right now in the next probably 90 to 120 days is to figure out how we can get this transaction to a close. And we have certain conditions that we all have to meet, and people can go online and look at the agreements, but we got to make sure we take care of the senior creditor. That is a major condition that we are working to figure out how we can get that done for all involved, including for the senior creditor. We have to make sure we also work on the shareholder vote on your side. So those are the things that we must work on. But let's talk about post-September, assuming we close, and that's what you and I are committed to getting done. But post-September, so right now, Evofem at that time is a company with existing revenues, with existing platform to truly expand on women's health, and I would say not just in the U.S., globally, right? Women are everywhere. How do you see the expansion as far as products, as far as geographical locations? And that obviously means bring something important for Aditxt as a model, because Evofem becomes an established company with existing revenues, existing sales, existing products. Persanta would be near revenue in Q4 with validation, and that's our plan, as again, capital dependent. And Adimmune as an autoimmune platform looking to file for regulatory approval. So from September, Saundra, what just maybe shed some light on growth. How do you see growth in 2026, 27, 28 when it comes to products and services?
Yeah. So a couple of important things. So we just inked our first ex-US deal in the Middle East for both Phexxi and Solisec with Pharma One. Evofem will receive revenue this July, starting this July, with them buying product. So finally, we are manifesting our ex-US. Your point is right. Women everywhere have unmet needs, and they have unmet needs for the exact products that we have. So Pharma One has both Phexxi and Solisec in the Middle East. One of the things that we know and we recognize is that we want this footprint to be global. But we're also smart enough to recognize what our skill set and capacity is. So we want to license with partners that already have an infrastructure, that they have a sales team, that they have the marketing machine, and that they understand women's health. Obviously, we're not going to grow our own business outside of it, but we will be able to get non-dilutive capital, upfront payments, royalties, and milestones. And I will say this, Amro, that there was a period of time when we were struggling. And people thought, are they going to make it? Are they even going to be here? And our persistence and resilience as partners to recognize that we do have to do a couple of tough things. Really, truthfully, our alliance will be solidified once we do one of the biggest tough things is deal with our senior creditor. But the global footprint, it's only starting. So we will be able to then continue to launch outside of the US, and not just Phexxi and Solisec, endometriosis forthcoming, eventually ovarian cancer, because we're building these partnerships with people who want to build their own portfolios. And they see that working with a company like ours, we can continue to feed their entire life cycle management. So that's exciting. The other thing I will tell you is that the one thing that I think matters and what I think you recognized about our company is that we have built an organization where no matter what we've been through, and we have been through hell, that we have had no attrition. Literally, I have the same team of people that were here when we launched Phexxi in 2020. And I promise you, these people could get a job tonight, somewhere else with a lot more cushy life, but they don't leave. And they don't leave because they know that we all believe in innovation. We believe in doing the hard things. And in July, we are actually getting ready to do a really provocative launch to be able to say to women, yes, we want you to use our products, but we also care about you and your body and how your body works. And there's so many myths, misconceptions, and taboos about our bodies. We can't even say female body parts on social media without getting shadow banned. Honest to goodness, Amro, I hope you don't get mad that I say this, but you can say penis all day long. But when you say a female body part, oh my God, that's pornographic. Okay, that's wrong. It's crazy. It's just anatomically correct. So July is going to be an exciting month for Evofem. And we are going to launch a campaign about education and information to empower women so that they know, yes, we are a company with amazing products, but we're also a company that has the mission of knowing that knowledge and education changes the way women make their choices. So I'm excited about that. And just for the listeners, the one thing I will tell you is I do talk to Amro several times a day, but what I actually love is when I tell him some of my craziest provocative ideas, instead of putting his head down and like covering his eyes, like, oh my goodness, he says, I love it. I love it. I think it's so great because we need to do things differently. We don't want to operate from fear like big pharma. We don't want to be so clinical. We want to do things that resonate with physicians and women, and that will give results to investors. So that's the cool thing too, because, you know, I'm an acquired taste. And the good thing is that Amro seems to have said, you know what, go crazy. It's good. So thank you for that.
Love the energy, Saundra, as always. I mean, look, this is really what this is all about. I mean, we can put press releases out, we can put 8Ks out, we can file this and file that, but ultimately, our stakeholders need to hear directly from us. They need to see it, and this has always been a window. And the goal for this weekly session is to have a window to the company. Frankly, challenges and opportunities. And look, the challenges are everywhere, Saundra. I mean, our team knows, you know, the challenges are no different, maybe a little bit different flavor, but look, capital is a challenge. Making payroll, making sure vendors are taken care of, creditors, payables, and look, it is not unique. It is not unique to you and I. It is, look, every company, of course, has its own unique set of challenges, but it's also a function of market conditions. That said, the reason we're doing this is the opportunity, because we're not public companies for sake of public companies. Our mission in life is not to be public. Our mission in life is not to to deal with challenges for sake of challenges. The reason we take on the challenge is because we see the opportunity of doing something in women's health, of doing something with autoimmunity, in doing something with early diagnostics like cancer. That's why we're here for. And it's so important for our stakeholders to hear it from us directly, what we see as an opportunity. And you certainly do it, you know, lots of justice when it comes to women's health. I mean, congratulations, Saundra, to you and your team. We're
Thank
getting
you.
there. We're getting
Yeah.
there. So
No, we are. We are. Well, there's a question, if it's okay, that I'll address if you want. It's about the tariffs. So the question was, with tariffs fluctuating every week, do you see any revised strategy on production and distribution of products? So just so one, look, besides being excited about women's health and really caring about this category, the one thing that we also take very seriously is the investment opportunity that exists in women's health. So not to be a buzzkill, but only 1% of research dollars are spent on women's specific issues. 1%. Women are half the population. So one of the things we want to do is to make sure we survive and thrive when it looks to all of our products. So we have different ingredients from different suppliers all over the world. So we've taken that very seriously. So point one is when we recognize the tariffs were going to start impacting us, we actually bulked up. We have a 4-year shelf life on Phexxi. We have a 4-year shelf life on Solosec. So we got extra product so that we could make sure that we weren't in a situation where the prices went up or fluctuated in a way that we couldn't deliver, number one. The biggest thing, though, is that we have identified a new manufacturer, Lee Pharma, and they have committed to lowering our cost of goods by more than 50%, which is, number one, it's going to matter in some of the places where we want to commercialize our products, particularly Europe. Europe, contraception is over the counter, so the price point needs to be much different. So we have identified manufacturing partners that will significantly lower the cost of goods, which will then mitigate what we see and what we know to be true, the fluctuation of tariffs. It's just the reality. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that, yes, we are being proactive about it, and we're trying to, stave off any kind of unexpected price hikes.
Great. Thanks for answering my question, Saundra. Beautiful. Again, I will just really encourage, our team members, our audience, just please do ask questions. I know that Saundra and I truly enjoy getting these questions and answering these questions. So anything else you want to bring up, Saundra, to discuss?
Yeah, and I don't know if this would be valuable or not, but one of the things, well, a few things. So last year, we generated $19.5 million of net revenue. We have had very, very, very limited growth capital. There have been opportunities that we've identified that we can capitalize on. When you said post-September, one of the things that is really going to matter with our alliance with Aditxt is we are going to be able to consolidate redundancies and create efficiencies in departments that we don't have now. Right now, because we're operating as separate entities, we have all of these separate departments. So we're going to be able to consolidate that, which will create a cost savings for both organizations. But what we intend to do with our cost savings is to invest a little bit in growth capital. And one of the things that I want to say, what's very important, so Phexxi, how it works is every woman, and maybe there's a lot of men on the call, you'll like this information if you don't know it, but every woman her vaginal pH is 3.5 to 4.5. That's it. When sperm enters, your pH goes up to 7 or 8, and that's how you get pregnant. It's the same thing that happens when pathogens like chlamydia and gonorrhea enter. When you look at women's healthcare, pH is everywhere. Everybody's talking about pH. Everybody's talking about anti-hormones, no hormones in your milk, no hormones in your meat. But what Phexxi does is it does not change a woman's pH. It helps her body maintain her natural pH, which is pretty extraordinary. The other point I just want to say is that why Phexxi is so unique and different is that it doesn't matter what a woman's weight is. It doesn't matter what other medication she's on. It doesn't matter if she's on antidepressants. It doesn't matter if she's had cancer. And it doesn't matter if she's on a GLP-1. Ozempic, Mounjaro, all of GLP-1s are the fastest growing category. And in the label, it says that because of the mechanism of action, the gastric stomach emptying, if a woman's on oral birth control, it makes it ineffective. So she has to be on another method for the first 4 weeks, and every time her dose is titrated up. So we intend to capitalize on that because Phexxi is the product these women should be using, period, if they want to prevent pregnancy. So post-September, when we have access to a little more capital naturally, without even having to get it, because we have cost savings, we know exactly where we would direct our funds. And we know for a fact that those funds will increase prescriptions because we've had a lot of telemedicine platforms call us and say, we want to send out messages that women who are on oral birth control and on a GLP-1 should be on Phexxi.
No, absolutely. And an excellent point, which we'll talk about some more next week as far as growth. It is important for a company, and I'm talking collectively, to really position ourselves for that growth stage. We have some work to do, cost savings. I mean, look, we certainly have taken certain measures, like with the Apple transaction. The Apple transaction, and Apple as a company is a great company with great people, but it's a function of reality. We needed to make sure, frankly, for both of our benefits, we needed to make sure that we focus our resources, and that's just one of the things that we had to do and we have to make that difficult decision. Persanta will talk again a bit more next week as far as Persanta. Chris and I talk as far as strategy. How do we put Persanta on a path of growth, and what capital strategy we need to deploy to make sure that happens. And Adimmune has been extremely resourceful, especially at the therapeutic platform, with some of the partnerships that they have to make sure that we get ultimately to human trials, at least initially to human trials and beyond. So with that said, again, I'm looking at the Q&A. I think we only had that one question as far as the tariffs. If any other questions, please go ahead and submit it. Otherwise, here is what we're going to do next Aditxt Weekly Update. I invited Saundra to come in again to talk about and to represent Evofem and women's health. I'm going to ask Chris to join us to talk about Persanta and early diagnostics, and I'm going to ask Friedrich to come and join us to talk about autoimmunity. And I think it would be a great opportunity for our stakeholders to see all three, to really hear directly from all three companies, all three verticals, and to have similar conversation, because it is important for our stakeholders to understand what Aditxt is and the opportunities we currently have represented by each of the companies. So with that said, anything else, Saundra, until we speak, I'm sure later this afternoon?
No, I'm looking forward to next Friday. I told Amro it's going to be the trifecta triple threat, me, Chris, and Friedrich. And no, I'm excited for the three of us to be together on this platform next week. So thank you, by the way, for giving me the opportunity to talk about women's health. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Saundra. Thank you again. And thank you, everybody, for joining. Look forward to seeing you next week.